the third year with Fu Zichuan, I found myself with child. Elatedly clutching the ultrasound report, I was about to demand that he marry me when a barrage of comments flashed before my eyes. Haha, this expendable Omega can't possibly believe that his pregnancy will compel the protagonist to wed him. Can he? Mr. Fu initially chose him merely to provoke our protagonist. That true heir. After all this time, he still hasn't realized that being pampered since childhood has left him somewhat dim-witted, who would marry a pawn intended to irritate his own wife. If the protagonist discovers his pregnancy, the truth about the child within him will be revealed, and other alphas will surely toy with him until his demise. 1. Upon witnessing the incoming message, I trembled uncontrollably. Even more alarming was the phone call that had gone unanswered thrice, which was now being picked up. Fu Zichuan's cool and detached voice resonated. What's the matter, darling? I was in a meeting just now and didn't hear it, my apologies. As always, he was sparing with his words, maintaining an air of indifference. Typically, I would have teased him playfully, but at this moment, my hand trembled like a leaf, and my voice quivered. And no, it's nothing. I dialed the wrong number. Fu Zichuan, please continue with your work. I won't disturb you any longer. The comments on the screen suggested that Fu Zichuan held an intense disdain for illegitimate children and loathed the foolish lovers who would use them to blackmail him. If I were to utter a word about my pregnancy today, the formidable Fu Zichuan, who wielded influence over both the underworld and the legitimate world, would undoubtedly arrange for the child's demise, mine included. This notion seemed absurd, yet I had witnessed Fu Zichuan's wrath before. There had been an incident where he had left a man bloodied and broken, limbs crushed mercilessly. I had stumbled upon that scene in the basement, nearly retching at the sight. In the end, Fu Zichuan had cleaned the blood and blindfolded me, guiding me back upstairs. For so many years, I had been cradled in his hands, nearly forgetting the grotesque horror of that bloody tableau. At this moment, I dared not take any risks. Just as I was about to hurriedly end the call, Fu Zichuan's displeased voice echoed again. Sweetheart, what did you just call me? The threatening undertone sent another shiver through me. Taking a deep breath, I feigned calmness and attempted to sound coy. Husband? Please continue with your meeting. I won't interrupt you. Fu Zichuan simply responded with a non-committal before finally hanging up. He even transferred 3 million to me, instructing me to enjoy myself. 2. Once I tucked my phone away, an overwhelming wave of exhaustion washed over me. I leaned against the hospital chair, drenched in cold sweat. To be fair, Fu Zichuan was an exceptionally generous benefactor. 3 years ago, upon discovering that I was not the true heir, my family had erupted in rage and cast me out. My biological parents had passed away, leaving me as the sole Omega in the family, raised in pampered isolation, utterly inept. Apart from my looks, I was of no worth. The genuine heir, Qiyu, disdained my pitiful presence loitering at the family door, and feigned kindness by providing me a way out. He suggested that, as a top-tier Omega, and possessing such beauty, I was ideally suited for the profession of a courtesan. He took me to an upscale club, pointing at a group of middle-aged alphas, saying, if you share a few drinks with them, you can earn a great deal of money. As an Omega, I had been shielded from such places my entire life. I naively believed that sharing drinks would indeed yield substantial rewards, laughing foolishly and promising Qiyu I would share my earnings. I was truly naive. It wasn't until a corpulent alpha had gripped my waist, forcing me to inhale the nauseating pheromones of arousal, that I realized the money did not come easily. My trembling hands knocked over the drink, and I retreated, covering my mouth and nose. Just as I opened the door, I collided with an S-rank alpha. He was strikingly handsome, exuding an intoxicating scent, with firm abdominal muscles. As the greasy older man behind me reached for me, I clung to the alpha's waist, my tear-filled eyes pleading for rescue. Few could resist my face. He was no exception. After swiftly dealing with the group of alphas, he carried me to the presidential suite on the top floor, placing me gently on the bed. Then he turned to leave. I was driven into a heat cycle, but I could not afford suppressants. Suffering intensely, I crawled and grasped his leg just as he was about to step out the door. In an instant, he lifted me with one arm and I captured his lips in a kiss. 3. The alpha froze, his body rigid. As I desperately tried to undress him, he finally succumbed to the moment. Thus, we spent a night entangled in confusion. Upon awakening the next day, I felt utterly unwell. Was it true that alphas could be so beastly? Shakingly, I pulled up my pants, intending to flee, but the alpha stirred. Without even opening his eyes, he coldly called out, "Chi Shu, do you think you can just run away after sleeping with me? Huh? How did he know my name? Was he also a courtesan?" I scratched my head, stammering, "Why yeah. I'm sorry, but I don't have any money for you right now." The alpha chuckled softly. Sitting up, he regarded me with a face equally captivating, his narrow fox-like eyes filled with teasing. "I don't need the money." Silence hung in the air for a tense 10 seconds. Just as I was about to foolishly inquire, "Do you want to date me?" he spoke simultaneously, "Do you want to be with me?" I understood what being with signified. It was akin to being an kept companion, like the small actor beside my alpha brother. A hidden existence. Yet, at that moment I had no better option. I chose to stay with Fu Zichuan. 3 years passed in this manner. Throughout those years we engaged in all that couples do, and I believed we were in love. Thus, when I learned of my pregnancy, I was elated. I envisioned a future of marriage and children. Until the comments appeared, revealing that my existence was merely a means to provoke Chiyu, who was destined to be Fu Zichuan's true omega, the one he genuinely loved. It was then that I finally grasped the truth. Fu Zichuan had never mentioned a future because there simply was none for us. For the antiseptic smell in the hospital was somewhat nauseating. I rubbed my weary eyes and took one last glance at the ultrasound report. This was our first child after 3 years. Given my frail constitution, it would likely be our last. Resolutely tearing the report into shreds, I turned to schedule an appointment for an abortion. The comments immediately expressed confusion. "No way. No way. Why does the cannon fodder want to terminate the child? If he does, how can our true heir get jealous and have Fu Zong discover it, leading to a direct confrontation of love? Foolish cannon fodder. Hurry and cancel the abortion appointment. Let the top come and fight." Huh? Is this even a coherent thought? I felt despondent and spent the evening alone in the park until sunset before returning home. The bedroom lights were on. As soon as I opened the door, a pair of strong arms unexpectedly pulled me in, silencing my lips. The kiss lasted several minutes, and I felt a wave of nausea, quickly covering my mouth and pushing him away. "Fu Zichuan, enough with the kissing." Fu Zichuan's expression instantly darkened. In the faint moonlight, he gazed at me intently. A chill ran down my spine, and I forced a smile. "Husband, I'm feeling a bit unwell today. Is that the reason for your visit to the hospital?" Fu Zichuan did not press further, but drew me onto the bed, embracing me from behind, kissing my neck gently. "Where do you feel unwell?" I struggled to muster a smile. Had he been following me? Yet thankfully he had not followed to the end. I casually mentioned a stomachache, and he did not inquire further. Like a child, he rubbed my belly and fell asleep. 5. After being berated by the comments all night for being a third party, I contemplated my situation and ultimately decided to wait for Fu Zichuan to propose a termination of our arrangement. He currently wielded immense power in Jiang City, and there was simply no escaping him. Moreover, the comments hinted that Chi Yu would be returning to the country in a couple of days to assert his claim. At the latest, within 3 months, Fu Zichuan would abandon me to entangle himself with his fated omega, sharing a life together. In the middle of the night, my nose inexplicably tinged with sadness. Seizing the opportunity while the old pervert slept, I kicked him lightly. A muffled groan escaped him. The next morning, Fu Zichuan had to leave for a business trip. A few of his subordinates were downstairs, gossiping as they held documents. "Isn't this the place our boss attended high school? His first love's hometown. Do you think he'll feel nostalgic about the past when he returns here for work? TSK. What nonsense are you all spouting?" As I leaned in, still unable to catch a glimpse of the location, Fu Zichuan's trusted aide, a Biao, landed a punch on them and turned to me with a grin. "Sister-in-law, don't listen to their nonsense. They're just bored from overeating." I waved my hand dismissively and turned to grasp Fu Zichuan in the living room, intent on accompanying him on a business trip. First love, a cherished memory? Why not? Even if I were to leave, I must uncover how I ended up as the third wheel. Upon arriving in Nan City, the barrage of comments inevitably recalled their story. 7 years ago, Fu Zichuan was schemed against by the third party, ousted from his home, and had his academic records transferred to the impoverished Nan City. Here, he met the resilient and tenacious Chiyu, and their shared part-time work ignited a budding romance, only to be cut short by the looming college entrance examination. Fu Zichuan, being 2 years his senior, gained admission to a university and had to leave to reclaim his family fortune. Chiyu, after dropping out, was discovered to be of noble birth, returned home, and eventually studied abroad, until the present day. 3 years ago, Fu Zichuan took me in merely to provoke Qiyu, who stubbornly pursued further studies abroad. I covered my eyes, overwhelmed by the rapid pace of my reading, feeling as though I was being drenched in melodrama. "Are you feeling unwell, darling?" The Cullinan came to a steady halt at the school gate, and Fu Zichuan reached out to touch my forehead. Remembering the myriad of moments over the past 3 years that I had misallocated, I held back my grievances and looked up to counter. "Fu Zichuan, is this the place where you met your first love? Is it not filled with beautiful memories of love shared with Qiyu?" His hand froze mid-motion. He gazed longingly at the school behind me for some time before a wistful smile graced his lips. Yes. Even though I had been bracing myself for this moment, I still felt as if I had been struck by lightning. The comments were indeed true. My thoughts turned to mush, leaving me oblivious to the murmurs Fu Zichuan spoke in my ear after we exited the vehicle. Fu Zichuan had come here for business dealings. It was said that a venerable elder in the commercial circle, yearning for home, had built a villa in his hometown to live in seclusion. After 3 invitations, Fu Zichuan finally managed to coax him out. Inside the club, the air was thick with fragrant smoke. The scent made me a bit nauseous, prompting me to leave a biao behind and venture to the restroom alone. Once I regained my composure and stepped out, I collided with 2 alphas. One of them looked familiar, his right hand missing. The other appeared slightly younger, his gaze flickering over me, unable to tear away his eyes. "Hey, aren't you the Omega who was once sent photos by old Zhao, and later followed some big shot?" He leaned in closer, attempting to grab me. Before I could react, the other alpha with the missing hand seized his shoulder, panic evident in his expression. "Old Wang, I advise you not to provoke her. Her sugar daddy is—" The alpha scoffed disdainfully, pulling out a business card. He offered a monthly sum of 500,000, urging me to join him. Admittedly, my contract with Fu Zichuan was nearing its end. Yet I was no longer the same person as before. Over the past 3 years, Fu Zichuan had supported my university education, enrolled me in art classes, and guided me in investment and stock trading. Thus, even if Fu Zichuan were to abandon me, I would not descend into the depths of degradation once more. Just as I was about to refuse, the barrage of comments erupted. "Hurry and accept his offer, you foolish pawn. This is your best choice. Though he lacks the handsomeness of the protagonist, and is over a decade older than you, at least he can protect you. Once Fu Zichuan and the young master are together, he'll be heartbroken over the young master and will stop at nothing against you, who dares to invade their blissful life. If you don't secure a benefactor, you'll be left with no place to rest." My blood ran cold. Fu Zichuan, would he truly go to such lengths against me? A glance at the empty sleeve of the man opposite me hinted at the mastermind behind this. Whoever dared to meddle with those around him would face dire consequences, even if it were an old grudge. "Well, I will consider it," I stammered, trembling as I reached for the card, only to be abruptly grasped by the nape of my neck. A wave of pine fragrance engulfed me from behind, forcing me to meet the piercing, icy gaze of Fu Zichuan. "Darling, what were you just considering?" The business card slipped from my fingers and fell to the ground. My throat tightened, and my limbs felt as if they were leaden. Yet, the next moment, a wave of nausea compelled me to push him away and rush into the restroom to dry heave. When I emerged, the 2 alphas had vanished. At the entrance stood a sullen Fu Zichuan, casting a single glance that made me trail behind him like a shadow. Inside the car, an eerie silence enveloped us, no one daring to utter a sound. It wasn't until we halted at the hospital entrance that I jolted awake, leaping to embrace the seat. "I won't go in, no." Fu Zichuan furrowed his brow. "Then why did you just throw up?" "It's just a stomach issue. I don't want to endure another gastroscopy, brother." I tilted my head back, desperately blinking away tears. Fu Zichuan, unable to withstand my obstinate antics, relented and took me home. Yet he fell into a cold war with me. He refused to engage in intimate acts or even speak a word throughout the day. A biao, having been worn down by Fu Zichuan, approached me with panda eyes while he was in a meeting, lamenting, "Sister-in-law, I don't blame you, but why would you even consider accepting that business card? It breaks our big brother's heart and endangers all of us. The company is quite busy lately, yet Big Brother still went through great lengths to find that master to invest in your art exhibition and even dealt with your recently released uncle. Yet you're thinking of betraying him." I froze mid-action, the coffee in my hand forgotten. Had Fu Zichuan genuinely planned to invest in an art exhibition after I casually mentioned it a while ago? And he was aware of the troublesome uncle who had been hounding me for money? Just as I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me, the barrage of comments abruptly interrupted. Fool, organizing the exhibition is merely a distraction for you, and dealing with that criminal is for the benefit of the returning treasures and has nothing to do with you. It infuriates me. Everything Fu Zichuan does for the young master is being usurped by him. Fine, I knew it all along. Fu Zequan, you scoundrel. After handing a cup of coffee to a Biao, I tearfully agreed to speak on their behalf tonight. A Biao's eyes widened. Sister-in-law, I didn't mean to blame you. It wasn't my intention to make you cry. Not at all, haha. Before he could finish, he slipped away. Just as I pondered how to placate Fu Zichuan, news arrived that Qi Yu had returned to the country. Fu Zichuan also claimed to have matters to attend to and would not be returning home tonight. The barrage erupted in cheers. Here it comes. The long-awaited reunion after 3 years. Fu Zichuan is indeed going to pick him up. Look at the grand spectacle surrounding the airport. Even the melodrama has been played out by our Fu Zichuan. The young master is so fortunate. Surrounded by love from both a husband and parents. Unlike someone who is left alone, bereft of family, to guard an empty house. I thought, oh, how pitiful Fu Zichuan had left me with nothing but cold, hard cash. Foolish pawn. Hurry and vacate the Fu household to make way. If it weren't for you being an unaddressed nuisance, Fu Zichuan and the young master wouldn't need to seek refuge elsewhere. I was appalled. Had they progressed so swiftly? Fury boiled within me, and disgust overwhelmed me. I immediately packed away all the gifts Fu Zichuan had given me over the years and contacted a knowledgeable friend to sell them. Haute couture, luxury cars, villas. The only item I hesitated to part with was the watch on my wrist, worth 30 million. I simply could not bear to sell it, nor did I dare to. Wow, Shao Qi. Have you finally come to your senses and are ready to let go of that old man? Xia Qi exclaimed on the other end of the phone. Astonished. He was a beta I met while studying art, quite affluent, with a younger alpha brother. During our first meeting, Xia Qi attempted to set me up with his brother, only to be thwarted by Fu Zichuan, who secretly sabotaged several of his company's endeavors. He had harbored a grudge over the years, thus harboring ill feelings towards Fu Zichuan. I choked back a sound of acknowledgement and inquired about the matter at hand. Che, did you really mean what you said about your brother being involved in the underworld? Xia Qi responded without hesitation. Absolutely. He is thriving abroad, wielding both wealth and power. Moreover, he is quite impressive in every sense. I promptly interrupted Xia Qi's enthusiastic endorsement. I'm not interested in discussing a new alpha just yet. However, I would like to negotiate a business deal with him. The day after Qi Yu returned to the country, my estranged adoptive parents, who hadn't contacted me in years, called. They informed me that Qi Yu was hosting a welcome banquet that evening and hoped I would return to the old residence. Having been cast out for 3 years due to their embarrassment over my liaison with a wealthy benefactor, this was their first attempt to reach out. I glanced at my substantial bank balance and decided to allocate a portion of it for the occasion, as a means of repaying their nurturing. The welcome banquet was bustling with life. Numerous socialites and heiresses were in attendance, mingling amidst the clinking of glasses. Surely Fu Zichuan would arrive shortly. I averted my wandering gaze, clutching a champagne flute as I nestled in a corner, preparing to wait silently. Once my adoptive parents concluded the banquet for Qi Yu, I intended to return the money to them. However, the festivities had barely begun when a group of wealthy young men approached, cornering me in my secluded spot. Well, look who it is. The fake young master who sells himself to others. They sneered, their towering figures casting ominous shadows over me. I glanced around, noting the absence of surveillance. The guests were congregated around the champagne fountain, oblivious to my predicament in this inconspicuous corner. Gripping my champagne flute tightly, I forced a smile and asked, "Is there something you need?" The young men raised their eyebrows. "We heard you stole Ayu's identity and later his alpha, becoming his lover. You wouldn't dare." Before he could finish his taunt, I splashed the drink in my hand at them. I attempted to escape their grasp, but I was outmatched by their collective strength, which yanked me back with force. "Damn it, you little tramp." A resounding slap struck my face. Yet, the din of the banquet drowned out the sounds of their abuse. The mingling alpha pheromones began to envelop me, suffocatingly thick. Ignoring my struggles, their laughter erupted. Ha! This pathetic rag has probably been with countless alphas, and yet here it pretends to be innocent. How shameless! The surrounding pheromones pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. As I scanned the crowd for help, I caught sight of a familiar figure who seemed ready to intervene. Yet, my voice caught in my throat. Standing beside Fu Zichuan was Qi Yu, radiating an aura akin to a star surrounded by admirers. He turned to me with a smile, blocking Fu Zichuan's impending gaze. I had already surmised my adoptive parents' intentions for summoning me that night. The comments from the audience confirmed my suspicions. You've stolen someone's 20 years of wealth and spouse. What's wrong with being taught a lesson? Support the young master in punishing this pretender. This vase of a beneficiary is just pretending to be innocent. I advise against crying out for help, as President Fu wouldn't bother to respond to you. I had no expectations for Fu Zichuan to rescue me. The alphas were free to express their malicious speculations, informing me that once the banquet concluded, they would take turns to toy with me. Damn it, what are you laughing at? They finally noticed my altered expression and remembered they had forgotten something important. Yes, my phone. I had been on a call with Xie when they approached, having it in my pocket as I confronted them. By now, Xie had already recorded the audio and called the police. When they retrieved my phone, they were met with a barrage of insults. In 3 minutes, the police would arrive to apprehend these rapists. The dim-witted alphas were furious. They raised their hands to strike again, but this time they hesitated. A bottle shattered against one of their heads. The alpha, stunned, touched his bleeding scalp, but the oppressive scent of fur overwhelmed him, causing him to kneel before the absolute intimidation of an S-rank alpha. All the alphas in the vicinity were visibly distressed. However, upon recognizing who it was, and seeing his fearsome countenance, no one dared to speak. When Fu Zichuan picked me up, his eyes were red. Seeing my handsome yet swollen right cheek seemed to choke him up, and he spoke with difficulty. I'm sorry for arriving late. Nestled in his embrace, I noticed Qi use tightly clenched fists. The audience speculated that Fu Zichuan saved me because of their quarrel and that I was merely a part of their little couple's game. I laughed. Ah, just a part of the play, huh? Let us see how this green tea princess can drive Qi Yu to madness. I clung to Fu Zichuan tightly, burying my face in his chest and weeping uncontrollably, wailing in pain. They said they would gang rape me, then dismember me, tossing my pieces into the sea. Woe is me. Fu Zichuan. My face hurts so much. Who will stand up for me? My outburst disrupted the entire venue. My adoptive parents rushed over, intending to reprimand me, but Fu Zichuan shoved them aside and delivered several fierce kicks to the alphas. To avoid jostling me, he merely turned to a biao and coldly instructed, once the police arrive, apprehend them all and lock them in the basement. Before leaving, I caught sight of Qi Yu's pale face. I stuck out my tongue at him and the audience, feigning innocence as Fu Zichuan released calming pheromones, allowing me to snuggle deeper into his embrace. How amusing. The foolish are indeed just that. After completing the hospital examination and receiving the suppressants, Fu Zichuan's mood was noticeably low. Belatedly aware of the potential consequences of his displeasure, shrank into the back corner of the car, feeling utterly deflated. We traveled in silence. My head bowed as I kicked pebbles upon entering. Just as I contemplated my 100th escape plan, Fu Zichuan seized my arm, pinning me against the doorframe, and without warning, bit into my gland. In a retaliatory manner, he flooded me with his potent pheromones. Only when I was completely enveloped in the scent of fur did he release me. He led me into the bedroom, where a box of green grape cupcakes awaited, my favorite, and from the most elusive bakery. He unwrapped the packaging, personally cutting a piece and offering it to me. His tone was unexpectedly gentle. Let us end the Cold War. Shall we, baby? I paused momentarily. In the past, when things got too heated in bed, he would soothe me this way. Now, was he concerned that I might flee early, leaving no one to play their part? The grievances I had buried surged to the surface. I rubbed my inexplicably sore eyes and took a hearty bite, devouring the treat. Fudzequanchacold. Stroking my neck like a pet. Eat slowly. No one is competing with you. I felt like an agitated beagle, tears of frustration welling up as I attempted to argue with him. Yet, before I could swallow the mouthful of cream, I rushed to the bathroom, covering my mouth. It was too rich. I felt nauseous, gagging without success. Fu Zichuan stood nearby, offering water, and reaching for his phone to call a private doctor, but I stopped him. He froze for a moment, then lifted his deep, cold gaze to scrutinize me. Qi Shu, are you pregnant? The atmosphere instantly thickened. I shivered, reacting instinctively by jumping up to deny it, shaking my head vigorously. How could I be pregnant? Darling, you forgot that the doctor explicitly stated my health condition makes it nearly impossible for me to conceive. What a joke. Fu Zichuan's face flickered with doubt before quickly dissipating. He nodded that is true. During my health examination, both traditional and modern medical professionals had confirmed that my constitution made pregnancy exceedingly difficult. Even as a top-tier Omega, my reproductive capabilities were akin to those of a subpar Omega. Hence, he had felt free to forego precautions in the past, enjoying our nights together. Fu Zichuan didn't dwell on it further, watching as I consumed a plethora of stomach medications disguised as vitamins, before pulling me into an embrace for the night. He had never been one to pressure me when I was unwell. Seizing the moment of his good mood, I spoke a few flattering words on behalf of ABO. Fu Zichuan bit down on my gland and uttered a soft HM. The following noon, I finally awakened from my slumber. As I descended the stairs, ABO leaped before me with exuberance, proclaiming that Fu Zichuan had granted a general amnesty to the company. He was also assigned to assist me in organizing the art exhibition. Sister-in-law, you must get along well with my elder brother from now on. Let's not have any more quarrels, he said, patting my shoulder obsequiously, prompting a wry smile from me as I placed my hand on my forehead. Indeed, there would be no more disputes in the future, for soon enough, I would no longer be your sister-in-law. The commercial art exhibition unfolded seamlessly, with esteemed masters presiding over it and a bustling crowd flowing in and out. Fu Zichuan sought to help me sell the paintings at exorbitant prices, but I was acutely aware of my own limitations. Setting the prices too high would merely suggest money laundering. Thus, I discreetly adjusted the price tags. Xiachi also attended. Upon witnessing my actions, he chastised me, exclaiming in frustration, "You're about to leave, and you still want to spare that old man some favor? Most of those who come to purchase your paintings are merely doing so for Fu Zichuan's sake. Seize this opportunity to make some money for your escape." I pondered his rationale, but perhaps it was my inherent nature to be considerate. I still didn't wish to trouble Fu Zichuan. I maintained the lower prices until the afternoon. For battered alphas, with broken limbs and bruised faces, barged through the door, insisting on purchasing the paintings at 500 times their original price. What should have cost 3,000 to 5,000 turned into millions. One mute individual even knelt before me, pleading to sell. Despite their mangled appearances, I recognized them as the young masters from the welcome banquet that night. The most talkative alpha was now without a tongue. It seemed that purchasing the paintings was Fu Zichuan's final act of retribution against them. I acquiesced to their demands and sold the works. After they left, Xiachi, brimming with enthusiasm, began counting the money. I should have felt elated that Fu Zichuan avenged me. Yet at that moment, a chill ran down my spine, and I found it impossible to smile. The barrage of comments before my eyes only intensified my nausea, leading to a violent upheaval within me. In a state of profound discomfort, the barrage of comments continued to roll on. Here it comes. The most anticipated scene of enforced love has finally arrived. Tonight, Fu Zong is in his sensitive period. They are bound to go at it again, ha ha ha. Doesn't anyone find this a bit cruel? For heaven's sake. The protagonist and the cannon fodder haven't even been separated. If you don't like it, just leave. Weren't you the ones who clicked on the enforced love tag? Did you come here to get insulted? After all, he's just cannon fodder. The next scene might be worse than those alphas. I trembled as I took the water from Xiachi, averting my gaze. Noticing my pallor, he took me home early. Outside, the dark clouds loomed ominously, suffocating in their weight. In truth, Chi, you had visited me yesterday. He echoed sentiments similar to the barrage, stating he understood Fu Zichuan better than I did. He urged me to leave him before Fu Zichuan's disdain took root. The barrage of comments that I could not shake off persisted until midnight. I curled up in bed, trembling, forced to witness 101 tragic endings for myself. Several thunderclaps resounded, accompanied by a sharp crack. The door swung open. The footsteps belonged to Fu Zichuan. Yet for some inexplicable reason, the scent of blood assailed me, rendering it impossible to discern whether it was rain or blood that dripped. I could not tell whose blood it was. "Baby, come out." Fu Zichuan's voice was hoarse, reminiscent of a ravenous beast lurking in the rain-soaked night, poised to pounce on its prey. The thought of the barrage paralyzed me. As the covers were forcefully yanked away, I shuddered violently. The oppressive fragrance of fur invaded my senses. Fu Zichuan's brow furrowed slightly as he grasped my face with a blood-streaked arm, compelling me to meet his gaze. Baby, are you afraid of me? Tears cascaded down my cheeks. I was terrified by his pheromones, yet I vehemently shook my head, attempting to argue. However, before I could utter a word, my lips were abruptly silenced. He did not possess the demeanor of someone who had merely rolled in bed with another Omega. His kiss was urgent and fervent. Thankfully, he did not intend to kill me. My breathing became erratic. In a fleeting moment of clarity, my gaze, illuminated by flashes of lightning outside, focused on his arm. Fu Zichuan, you're hurt. It's nothing. I 1T die. The alpha in his sensitive period abruptly sank his teeth into my gland, infusing me with pheromones as he buried himself in my neck, coaxing, take it off. The overwhelming scent of his pheromones compelled me to respond. As I was rendered breathless and tingling all over, I found myself muddled in thought. Was the child within me also destined to survive? I'm so angry. Why is Fu Zong quarreling with the young master again? He went home to use this substitute as the young master's bedmate. Cannon fodder, don't get too pleased with yourself. Tonight is merely Fu Zong's sensitive period, and his awareness is muddled. Once he regains clarity, he'll surely feel tainted and regretful enough to want to kill you. So it was merely a substitute? Then who was he referring to as baby? Tears streamed down my cheeks like a string of pearls, falling uncontrollably. Fu Zichuan paused his actions. Why are you crying again? His hand, which had been gripping my waist, lifted, trying to wipe away my tears, but I stubbornly evaded him. Go away. Did I hurt you? I'll be gentler. Fu Zichuan, I despise you. He mistook my words for flirtation and chuckled, kissing away my tears. All right then, let us keep going until baby says he likes it. I can scarcely recall how those 3 days concluded. I oscillated between consciousness and oblivion, awakening only to succumb once more to dizziness. The fact that my womb had not been disturbed to the point of miscarriage was a testament to the child's resilience. On the 4th night, while Fu Zichuan still held me in his slumber, I exerted great effort to extricate myself and rise. The barrage warned that once Fu Zichuan regained consciousness, my life would be forfeit. To ensure my survival, I injected myself with a few stimulants and hurriedly packed my belongings for a hasty escape. The luxury sports cars I had never used lay idle. Converting them into cash would have gone unnoticed by Fu Zichuan. Thus, my luggage consisted mainly of money, with little else. As I dragged my suitcase away from the villa, a message from the hospital arrived. The abortion I had scheduled last month had been postponed to tomorrow, marking my final opportunity for postponement. I took one last look at Fu Zichuan, tucked him in snugly, and turned to leave for the hospital. The following day, having been drugged and caught in his sensitive period, Fu Zichuan awakened in the dead of night, having just endured a horrific dream drenched in blood. Startled awake, he instinctively reached for the person beside him, only to find the space cold and empty. The rain-soaked terrace dripped rhythmically, and the air began to crystallize with an icy chill. At 3 in the morning, Fu Zichuan roused the still-sleeping ABO, dispatching numerous trusted aides to scour Jiangqing for me. He bombarded Qi Shu's phone with calls, but it remained switched off. He searched every location Qi Shu might have gone, yet found no trace. Finally, ABO timidly handed over the retrieved information, explaining with trepidation, elder brother, sister-in-law found out she was pregnant last month, and she, with a resounding crash, the glass ashtray filled with cigarette butts shattered at ABO's feet. Fu Zichuan looked up in shock, enunciating each word slowly. What did you say? ABO inhaled deeply, mustering the courage to shout. Sister-in-law is pregnant. She even scheduled an abortion at the city center hospital under a friend's name, liquidated her assets into cash, and fled with the money and the child. Elder brother, please accept my condolences. Fu Zichuan closed his eyes, grinding his molars, the shadows in his gaze deepening. Yet he stubbornly corrected him. What do you mean flee? She merely lost her way while indulging in some fun. Search. Keep searching. Offer a reward of 30 million. I want her found, no matter the cost. A scruffy, limping middle-aged man clung to my leg like an unyielding plaster, refusing to let go. He shouted, Qi Shu, it was your ex-husband who left me in this state. Either take me abroad to support me, or return with me to claim the 30 million prize. I felt dizzy from his incessant shaking. It had already been 2 days. This labor reform criminal, my uncle, had learned of my departure from Fu Zichuan and had doggedly pursued me for the entirety of that time. Xiaoqi had suggested I eliminate him, but I found myself unable to take such a step. However, if I didn't leave soon, it would truly be too late. My head throbbed, and just as I was about to relent and take him with me, a small object struck the ground at my feet.
Jenny.
Hit on the back of the head, roared and turned around. Upon recognizing who it was, he instantly transformed into a quail. My gaze met his, and my pupils constricted. I instinctively wanted to flee, but the entire hospital was suddenly surrounded. Chun-Ji, attempting to crawl away, had a gun pressed against his temple, rendered immobile. Fu Zequan, whose aura was as frigid as ice, advanced on me, his shadowy gaze seemingly pinned to my form. He spoke coldly, "Qi Shu, I am aware of your pregnancy. Come back." My hands trembled even more violently. I had anticipated Fu Zichuan discovering my condition, but I had not expected him to locate me with such swiftness. I had thought I would at least manage to escape abroad and be protected by Xiaoqi's nefarious brother before he caught up to me. Recollections of the numerous deaths that had flashed before my eyes during these days left my heart in despair. Thus, as Fu Zichuan approached, preparing to seize me, I drew a sharp knife and pressed it against my own throat. "Take another step closer and I will do it, Fu Zichuan." The barrage of comments suggested that to him, my death would be far too simple. He was unwilling to let me die so easily. Thus, a crack appeared in Fu Zichuan's typically composed demeanor. In a state of panic, he ordered those around him to step back, freezing in place himself. Meeting his eyes, filled with a sorrowful anguish, I let out a cold laugh mixed with tears. "After 3 years of following you, please, Fu Zichuan, let me go, will you? I promise I will no longer disturb you. I will never again appear in your sight. I will be as silent as if I have died." Fu Zichuan was momentarily taken aback. The pain etched on his face vanished without a trace, replaced by profound confusion. "What are you saying, Qi Shu? What disturbance? Who is we when you speak of me and whom? What nonsensical things have you heard?" Before he could finish, an oblivious Omega squeezed through the crowd, wrapping his arm around Fu Zichuan's. Suddenly enlightened, he believed in the system? Glancing at Qiyu, Fu Zichuan was once again stunned. He cast a derisive glance in my direction, and 3 seconds later, he swiftly drew his gun, silencing Qiyu's words. The scene descended into chaos. Fu Zichuan shoved Qiyu, who had been hit in the right arm, away, frantically attempting to explain something to me, only to be held back by Qiyu's reckless insistence. Clutching the knife, I desperately retreated. At the edge, an alpha seized me by the collar and whisked me away amidst the turmoil. On the private jet, Xiaoqi sighed repeatedly. After hearing the stories of Fu Zichuan and Qiyu, he regretted not having allowed Xiaoqiu to storm in and confront Fu Zichuan directly. Xiaoqiu polished his gleaming pistol, nodding in agreement. I felt embarrassed. Fortunately, I had escaped quickly, preventing a direct confrontation between the two. The police station was just a street away from the hospital. Nevertheless, I must express my gratitude. It was thanks to Brother Chi's foresight that we managed to escape safely today. According to the original plan, I had only hired Xiaoqiu to act as my bodyguard abroad, expecting them to provide support when I arrived. Xiaoqi waved his hand dismissively, asking, "You mentioned that Fu Zichuan loves Qiyu so much. Why did he shoot him today?" I glanced at the barrage of comments, all berating the plot for its inconsistencies, with no one providing an explanation. Their attention had finally shifted from how will Fu Zichuan kill me to just how out of character can Fu Zichuan become. I averted my gaze, scrolling through the pregnancy care instructions sent by the doctor, ignoring them. That night, after leaving the Fu residence, I spent the entire night in the obstetrics department. I had indeed intended to wait for the doctor to arrive and undergo the procedure, but as I stood in line, it felt as though my feet had rooted to the ground. Hesitation and bitterness coiled in my heart. I admit that when the doctor uttered the words, "You will most likely never have children again," I felt my resolve waver. Just that fleeting moment of weakness led me to abandon the operation. It was merely a child. What was there that I could not provide for? Even without an alpha father, modern medicine would ensure that they would never lack for resources or affection. I ultimately decided to raise the child alone. Upon landing in M country, the troublesome matters from home settled for a while. The barrage fell silent. I recuperated in the prearranged apartment. To ensure my safety, Xiaoqiu and the others took residence next door. Occasionally, I would venture out to sketch, and they would accompany me. Xiaoqi, as ever, attempted to promote Xiaoqiu as my romantic partner. My refusals fell on deaf ears, and CSCU's expression darkened. On weekends, when I was dragged out to watch a film, CSCU, once again accidentally pushed next to me, lost his temper completely. After leaving me with a little brother, he seized Xiechi and dragged him out. The next day, CSCU emerged from Xiechi's bedroom. I was taken aback. You two slept together. My pupils trembled, but it wasn't intimate. CSCU raised an eyebrow, an air of indifference surrounding him. Now my brother won't utter that nonsense about Alpha and Omega being a perfect pair. That night, Xiechi returned to the country in a fit of anger. After 2 weeks abroad, Fu Zichuan was not as crazed as I had envisioned. In fact, he showed no signs of searching for me at all. Perhaps they were already living the happy life described by the barrage. A twinge of melancholy flickered within me, and I gradually lowered my guard. The next day, I went out to sketch, taking only CSCU with me. The wind by the lake was strong, causing me to sneeze. CSCU gallantly offered me his jacket. I smiled politely, raising my head to express my thanks, only to have a bullet whiz past his hand, severing our contact. I froze in place. Turning awkwardly, I saw Fu Zichuan, his gaze as cold as iron, dragging a half-conscious Chiyu and throwing him to the ground. Chi Shu, is this the initial love of yours, the white moonlight, your future lover? He pressed the gun against Chi Yu's head, questioning in a near-hysterical manner. If I were to kill him myself, would you finally believe that I truly love you and not him? I hurriedly attempted to stop Fu Zichuan. The long-absent barrage erupted in chaos. What the hell is this plot? Wasn't this supposed to be a sweet romance? The protagonist has turned the recipient into this state. Can it even end happily? The protagonist will definitely pursue his wife. He is merely enchanted by this imposter. Who knows when he might end up killing him? I could kill you all, but I could never kill him. Fu Zichuan suddenly glared at the row of texts in the air, his anger boiling over as he fired a shot into them, then turned back to me, his voice choked. Baby, I know you saw what happened recently, but it was all a misunderstanding. Let's talk, shall we? My mind went blank for a moment. He knew everything? Was talking possible? Just as I was about to agree, CSCU stepped in front of me, warning, you can't go over there.
Fu Zichuan's gaze darkened.
Yet he did not confront CSCU directly. Instead, he gestured for someone to step forward, causing CSCU's expression to change dramatically. It was the foul-mouthed Xiechi. He shouted desperately not to worry about him, pleading that they must not hand me over, the love-struck fool. Fu Zichuan dismissed Xiechi's curses and coldly instructed a biao. Go. Shut him up. Everyone present was left in stunned silence. A biao, in a state of panic, exclaimed, Brother, I have feelings for Omega. I cannot bear this. A salary increase, came the terse reply. Without hesitation, a biao turned around. Just as he was about to kiss, Xiesuyu, unable to contain himself any longer, shouted, Stop! He loosened his grip on my arm, which had turned red from his earlier hold, and gritted his teeth as he demanded, Can you guarantee that you won't harm him? Fu Zichuan scoffed, Would you harm your own wife? Xiesuyu released his grip, and I found myself enveloped in the familiar scent of fur in Fu Zichuan's embrace. Perhaps it was the influence of the pheromones, for at that moment, as Fu Zichuan held me tightly, tears began to flow uncontrollably. Fu Zichuan took me back to his villa in M Country, where I met the enigmatic master he had spoken of, a mysterious figure capable of drawing spells, helping him see, and even dispelling malicious comments. Before expelling those vile remarks, Fu Zichuan first clarified the misunderstandings from before. Each time he had met Chi Yu was not for a secret affair, but rather to seek revenge against him. The airport confrontation was vengeance for the deception I narrowly escaped 3 years prior, while the subsequent meetings were for the humiliation I suffered at the welcome banquet. 3 years ago, Chi Yu had gone abroad merely to evade trouble. He has a system that insists we are destined partners, which is why he has pursued me since high school, but I have never acquiesced. Had I known his existence would lead to so many misunderstandings, I would have never allowed him to linger, Fu Zichuan explained, his gaze piercing. I clearly told you long ago that you were my first love, and I love you. Faced with his eyes, filled with a sense of injustice that could rival that of Dou-yi, I swallowed hard, feeling a pang of guilt. What? When did I ever say that? Back when you first asked me if Nanchang was where I met my first love. In that moment, I had been lost in the sorrow of being a mere substitute, unable to focus on his recollections. Guilt surged within me, and I clutched the hem of my garment, lowering my head to murmur an apology. Fu Zichuan did not dwell on the chaos of the past few days. He gently pried my fingers apart, placing a cool ring on my fourth finger. The reason I didn't mention love before was that I feared you would reject me outright. I wanted to let feelings develop over time. Kneeling before me, he pressed a kiss to the back of my hand, adorned with the ring. So now, can you trust that I will love you well? On the day the malicious comments were dispelled, they erupted in a frenzy. So I have been shipping the wrong couple this whole time? Turns out the hotel visit was not for a rendezvous but for a brawl? It seems the violence was so graphic that they had to censor it, leading us to misinterpret things. How infuriating! Why does this cannon fodder get to say such things? What happened to the group that was supposed to be universally despised? The synopsis and the main text are dreadfully inconsistent. This is outrageous. I withdrew my gaze. More outrageous was the fact that they were about to be cooked by the master. That night, upon returning home, Fu Zichuan personally prepared a lavish feast. Steamed crab, hawthorn and brown sugar porridge, and a nourishing soup graced the table. He even lifted a bowl to feed me with his own hands. I was left speechless. Fu Zichuan, you surely he still did not wish for children. Yet, Fu Zichuan paused in his actions, suddenly setting down the bowl to embrace me. His voice thick with emotion, we can have more children after this one is gone. It's all right. Did you not pay attention to Biao's investigative report? I truly dared not listen too closely. What do you mean? All of this food is on the doctor's list of things to avoid during pregnancy. I cupped his face. Feigning grievance? Or do you simply not want this child at all? He silenced me with a kiss, pressing his hand against my abdomen. Only when he felt the life within me stirring did he finally relent. So, you did not terminate it that day. Indeed, congratulations to Mr. Fu for finally becoming a true father. The story concludes here. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and give a like to show your support. Until we meet again in the next tale.